blood vessels. What do you think of? Well, you should be thinking of a vessel, something that holds something, and the blood. So you should be thinking of blood flowing through these different um, tubes. And there's three types of blood vessels. There are arteries, veins, and capillaries. And as you can see here, we have this artery, which is quite thick. The vein, which is also a large vessel, and then the capillary, which is very small. We've talked previously about how the capillaries are actually only one cell thick, so diffusion can take place. So keep this picture in mind as we go through the functions of each. Arteries. They carry blood away from the heart. And I want you to remember this A for away. And normally the blood that they're carrying is oxygen rich, or what we call oxygenated blood. The exception though is the pulmonary artery because it carries deoxygenated blood. If the blood is coming away from the heart, it's still carried in an artery, but the blood carried in the pulmonary artery is going to the lungs. And so that blood is actually oxygen poor, and it's going to the lungs to pick up that oxygen and exchange the carbon dioxide, and then it gets pumped back to the heart. And if we look at arteries, they're very thick and muscular. And arteries are how we feel a pulse. You feel if you put your fingers at the base of, or the top of your neck at the base of your chin, where your chin and neck meet, you can feel your pulse. And what you're feeling is actually the blood being pumped through these arteries. They have these thick muscular walls, and the blood is getting pushed from the heart through these arteries all the way around the body. There are some problems, though, if an artery becomes diseased. And one of the most common is atherosclerosis, which is a hardening of the artery based on fatty plaque deposits that build up. And a lot of times this is a result of cholesterol. And you can see as this builds up, the opening in the artery actually narrows, so blood can't get through. And then it slows blood flow down, so you're not getting oxygen to all the cells of the body, as well as being more prone to having blood clots. The next vessel is veins, and these are going to carry blood back to the heart. So any vessel that carries blood back to the heart is going to be a vein. And veins are kind of unique because they actually have valves in them. And this is what it looks like when the valve is open, and this is when the valve is closed. And you'll find veins really typically embedded around the skeletal muscle. And the blood here is usually deoxygenated and it's going back to the heart. But the exception here is the pulmonary vein because that's going to carry the oxygenated blood from the heart, from the lungs back to the heart. So then the heart can pump it around the body through the arteries. And because the blood is being pumped back to the heart, and think about the blood gets pumped all the way down to your feet and it moves through the arteries, well, it's got to go all the way back up to the heart. So the muscles actually help this, and it's the skeletal muscles. So as you walk and as they move, they're contracting and they're helping to squeeze the blood back up, and we don't want the blood to go backwards. So the valves here actually help keep the blood flowing towards the heart instead of going back down. And then there's some disorders with them. You'll hear about spider veins, but here's varicose veins. And this is what the caricature kind of looks like in a varicose vein. And they look kind of enlarged and they twist. What happens is, as they twist, now blood flow is going to be poor through these veins. And sometimes, this is more prominent in women. It could be genetic. It could be for an array of reasons. But here the veins actually, they get all kinky. And now you're not talking about the blood flowing in a straight tube, but it has to go through all these curves, and the valves end up becoming leaky, so the blood is actually going to end up flowing backwards. So it's going to be harder to get the blood back to the heart to get that oxygen, to get it around the body again, to get the oxygen to all the cells. And then the last vessel is capillary. And capillaries are very thin. They are one cell thick, and it's where the exchange of nutrients is going to take place. Arteries are going to narrow down into arterioles and they become smaller before they become capillaries, and veins are going to narrow down into a tube called a venule, and then those are going to branch off into the capillaries. And again, we represent blue for deoxygenated in the veins and red for oxygenated in the arteries. And capillaries are going to surround muscles, and the alveoli in the lungs, and anywhere that there's going to be any kind of exchange of materials like carbon dioxide and oxygen, for example. And there's going to be a transfer of these materials, and then they're going to flow either back to the heart through the veins, or they're going from the heart back into the tissues in the arteries.